Thank you for coming all, and we'll begin the session. First, we have Monica Cantieni here. She's gracing today's function, and we'll have first inauguration of the book. We'll publish the book at her hands, and then we'll begin the session. So I request Monica to publish the Marathi edition of the book, and Dr. Sunanda as well. It's tightly wrapped, so you need to tear it really fast.
Okay. Okay, I rip?
Yeah, rip,
Yes,
rip.
I rip.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. So, cut it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Now we'll begin the session. I'll be taking interviews of both the author and translator. So before starting the session, I would like to tell you a small story, and it's from famous German poet Goethe's work, Der Zauberlinger. That means the sorcerer's apprentice or the magician's apprentice. There was one magician, and he could do anything, and he had one apprentice. So the magician had a magic broom. One day he told his apprentice to do some mundane tasks like filling water and everything. So what the apprentice do? He asked the magic broom to fill the water, and he casted some spell, and the broom started filling the water in the workshop. And soon everything was done, but it couldn't stop. So because the apprentice didn't know how to undo the magic, and so he got an axe and broke the broom into two pieces. But unfortunately, both the pieces started working now, and the problem was doubled. Means everything was flooding. Luckily, the magician came and stopped the magic. So, what this tells us, we have a magical thing called as technology in our lives, and we are using it like the apprentice. We don't know the implications of the technology, what is going to happen next, and that is going to cause a major problem. We are facing problems caused due to global warming every day. Still, we don't do anything. In Indian context, I can say we are like Abhimanyu caught in the Chakravyuha of technology. We know how to go in, we know how to get likes, we know how to post on Instagram, but we don't know the implications, what is going to happen next. So this book takes it deals in deep with these kind of issues, and it has a human layer as well. So I'll ask my first question to Monica. So this book deals with displacement and immigration. Even though the central theme of the book is environmental one, it also chiefly deals with human emotions, their immigration, so and losing one's roots. So could you please more elaborate on it?
Yes, I think that this is a problem where we never look at very closely when we are in our, let's say, as a Swiss German woman, I'm not confronted that much with it because I live in Switzerland, and I got everything I need. I got it around me, and I never had to leave the place. And I think it is very important for us Swiss people, European people, to acknowledge what suffering is behind immigration, and how hard it is to arrive at a new place and to get just into language, into customs, into maybe different cultures, different culture, different meanings of behavior, and that's all at once. And I think it, for Swiss people, it is very important that I can show them how hard it can be, because they are, and me, I am so settled in there, and because I work a lot in schools where I am confronted with people coming from all over of the world and having had very hard stories to come into Switzerland, I came up with the idea to write about it because I was so deeply touched from it.
Okay. Thanks. I'll go to my next question. That is for Dr. Sunanda. Dr. Sunanda is very experienced translator. She has been an editor of for Cantieni Bhashantar since last 25 years. Dr. Sunanda, how did you translate the cultural nuances from this original book? Because the book was written in Swiss German. It also had characters like Polish truck driver, or there might be some typecast, there might not. So how could you decipher all these things?
Yes, to tell you my experience about this particular book. See, every book is different, of course, and so every time translating a book could be a different kind of experience. This particular book is about, it is Jugend book, that is, it is book written or meant for the young adults, teenagers and above. And like she said right now, the problems, I mean, she addresses here social issues and also socio-political issues and environmental problems. So, and the combination of it. So it was, I mean, she probably, I mean, I thought it, or I understood it that way, that the young generation or the young adults should also confront with these questions, with these issues, and they should know what is going around. And so there are, of course, some nuances, as you said, cultural nuances or some colloquial terms. So every time I had the difficulty, I asked Monica. Fortunately, I had contact with her and she immediately could answer me. So, for example, the colloquial usage, or I think there was some reference that the mother of Sadri, who comes from Kosovo, Albania, the mother is wearing particular slippers. And so I could not understand that reference because I mean, it belongs, I mean, it refers to some particular class and also a particular region from where the women are actually wearing those slippers. Or the colloquial, the language of youth, when they talk to each other, and when, for example, that Ben, the Swiss boy, he goes to the cafe, he goes to the McDonald's, and where other boys having background of immigration, they are also standing there. So the exchange of words with those people and Ben. So these kind of expressions were there. And so every time I had some difficulty, I asked her. And so I could understand those nuances.
I'll pick up the thread of McDonald and ask a different question than planned to Monica. So we are seeing the McDonaldization of world. See, the world is getting everywhere similar. Each country is having Subway, McDonald, and culture associated with that. So world is getting smaller and flatter at the same time, and everybody wants everything right now. There is no place for delayed gratification. The relationships are getting shallower and shallower, and most of the people, especially the teenager age group, is living in the world of their own. So do we have any solution for this, or can we turn the clock back, or it is going to be same and we need to adjust with it?
Well, a clock is always going forward and never goes back. It would really trouble me. But I'm not hopeless. And I'm not hopeless for these two youngsters, because even they have really a hard argue, a really existential argue, they keep talking to each other. They keep discussing. they don't stop their dialogue, and their friendship stays. And that's the hope for me in every relationship, whether it is personal or political or don't know what else, that we don't stop talking to each other and try to understand. I think this is really the essence of it, and this is what happens right now, that we don't talk no more. Maybe I will tell you a little story to that. I have a good friend. He's a writer, and his wife is an apothecarian. She's with owner of an apothecary. And during pandemic, they really had different opinion of vaccination in an apothecary. Two of them were quite critical with the vaccination, and she was absolutely she would agree, because there were elderly people coming in, vulnerable people with diseases, so you have to be vaccinated. Well, they thought they were talking this over and that everything was okay. Last year they thought about changing their form of apothecary, and then the two of them said to her, yes, we can change that organization-wise, we can change it, but without you. And they didn't talk no more about it. So she had the opinion that, well, we did talk about it, it's okay, we agree on disagreement, but we have a project in common. We have a project which we want to go on with. But this, I don't know whether it began in the pandemic, when people stopped talking to each other and being together with each other. It cut some social engagement for me, and that still is there also. So you're with me or you're against me. And that's not a platform for discussion or finding an agreement, or even being able to work together for a project.
Dr. Sunanda, how do you see this thing happening in our Indian context, say post-COVID or during extreme individualization?
Yes, I think post-COVID, the patterns of behavior have changed, that we know. But if I want to connect with the schools and with the youngsters, those are the figures in this book. I would say that when we look at the scenario today, that there is, I mean, when we talk about the dialogue and the possibility of dialogue, when we see that there is a different schools are there, like private schools with very expensive fees structure, and there is a class in our society now, higher middle class or rich people, they send their children to the private schools with expensive fee structure, and there are schools where different kind of children go. So I remember in my school days, we were all together. So I used to have friends from all the possible classes. But that is not happening today, especially in urban area, that the children are separated, so to say, from the childhood. And there is no possibility of dialogue or interaction. They don't know, for example, the Ben in this story, he is not very much aware, though he is friend with Sadri, he is not very much aware of the problems of the families who have having this immigration background. So in our society also, this, if it goes on like this, these differences would be always there in the mind of the people, because they did not have interaction or possibility of interaction with each other in the childhood. That is what I see when we talk about the dialogue. And of course, as she is saying rightly, and also in the book, that she is not, I mean, it is not hopeless, but there is some hope. And they even after a very strong dispute with each other, Ben and Sadri, Ben asks him, "Should I take you on my scooter to your workplace?" So even after that, that dialogue will continue. That is actually said there. Yes. Yes, it was a different kind of answer, but I just wanted to connect with that.
Yeah,
point.
thank you so much.
But
I'll
maybe I just connect with what you said. In Switzerland, it's a little bit different. We don't have that hard cut between people who can afford private schools and people who go to public schools, and the quality of public schools is very good. But it's beginning slowly that the higher the education is, the more you take other possibilities, and but in that I must say we still have a very good chance that it doesn't become that difficult like how in the US or how in the UK. I hope it stays like that.
I have next question on the creative side for Monica. The book is about two adolescents and two fishes. The fishes look at human beings and they called them as two-legged fishes because that's how the fish will describe a human being as a two-legged fish. So instantly I was wondering how this term came. So all human life or life on earth originated from the water. So, did you have anything like that in mind? Because there is a subtle hint of evolutionary process of biological organisms as well as in emotional relationships. So, is there any reference to evolution as such?
Actually, not. It was not so deep thought. It was just I wanted to really change perspective as far as I can. I did a lot of research on whales because it's about two sperm whales, and the more and more I was digging into research, just watching films, documentaries, reading papers, the more I got fascinated by these living entities. I really was fascinated about them. And the more also changed the view on what happens on land. But I didn't think of evolution in that way. I'd rather think of revolution in a way of a different way of thinking, that we unlearn this way of thinking that we're the top of everything.
So that was my main question because we humans don't consider ourselves as animals. If someone uses a term animal in context of humans, we find it degrading. We think ourselves as the special ones, or to be precise, the chosen ones. So there are many hypocrisies and idiosyncrasies in our behavior. There are a lot of contradictions. Means we are making films on cruelty on animals and we are eating non-vegetarian food at the same times. So what is your comment on this kind of hypocritic behavior of human beings towards nature?
I live that by myself. Sometimes I eat meat and I like it. But I mean, during time in the 70s, it was totally normal in our Christian area to eat meat. It was a sign of luxury. Yes, we can, after World War II, because many people couldn't afford meat in any way, and then it was sort of a fashion, at least have once a week meat on the table for every family. And I grew up like this. And for me, it was a process to reduce, to say, no, you don't have to have that much. It's okay if you eat twice or once a month or 3 times a month. Okay, I'm okay with that. I like it though. I really do. So next step would be a vegetarian. Not from a religious perspective, otherwise just for ecological thinking. But I think this movement is getting bigger and bigger also in Switzerland, and also consciousness for that, that we say very often, or more often we say, no, we don't need that. We eat different things.
Okay. Similarly, I will ask similar question to Sunanda ma'am. That is, we are also facing these kind of things in our country. We are all set for growth and third largest economy in the world now. This and progress is our mantra. So how this is going to affect our local environment, local culture, and interpersonal relationships?
Yeah, difficult to answer. uh, yes, but like the reference is made in the book about this wagyu, the which is typical of Japan, and that I, like you said, asked me in the first question, the cultural nuances. So before I started translating, of course, I gathered information about this immigration and about Wagyu and about other things also. So this Wagyu is also something, I mean, this hypocrisy you mentioned. Yeah, it is there because they have a different kind of, like halal, it is that kind of thing. But there are people who prefer that to eat Wagyu. Or there are people who go for halal and other things. So I think eating non-vegetarian food and cruelty against animals, they are, I don't know whether to consider them as
No, I wanted
opposing.
to mean instead of going in that, wanted to ask about the conspicuous consumption. We can term not in terms of
Yes.
food,
Huh.
but other luxuries we are blatantly showing off as a society,
Yes, yes.
like marriages of
Yes,
celebrities, etc.
yes. And I think after the pandemic is over, that is, and when you are talking about the progress and other things, that is actually increasing in numbers, and that somebody is able to give away money. I mean, able to just do whatever
Is
he
this
or
called
she
we
wants.
can call revenge spending kind of thing after post-COVID or what?
Yes, I think so. Because it is there. I mean, the tendency, or it is a kind of fashion, or to show off that what I have, that I want to show off.
Okay, I'll come towards literature a bit. Literature for teenagers or adolescents is a rare category these days. I think perhaps after Harry Potter, there is not a major sizable volume for this kind of age group. So this book adds valuable contribution for that age group. So why did you think about writing for this particular age group?
Oh, that idea was born with, first of all, because I work a lot with teenagers in schools, and I'm very often in schools where a high percentage of them have migration history and aren't very privileged. And the second was I was working in a project. I was invited as a storytelling expert to a project with it called Once Upon a Tomorrow, and it was about it was a collaboration between Goethe Institut, and it was a collaboration between a university in the Netherlands plus literary festivals here in India, which where we discussed how do we get more diversity and inclusion into festivals. And we worked there for 3 months online, and it was absolutely fruitful, and it was fun, and really also very deep. And after that, I thought, okay, Monica, what does that mean for your literature? How would you put that to your literature, more inclusion. You write for grown-ups. I mean, I'm more of the side of socially critical writing, that I have very often topics of social issues that I point out. But I thought, okay, now I want to really see what is it, what I could do for these young people. How could I give them a voice? Because this is what happens very often. They suffocate in their anger. They suffocate in it, in their pain, and don't find words to put it right. And I tried with this to give them a voice. And I give also the two whales a voice who don't have one. They drown in plastic. And in writing that, I got aware of that this is my main aim in writing, to try to give, without patronizing though, to try to give a voice to those who haven't one, or where the voice is not very loud or loud enough to get heard.
So this book talks about a big problem which we most are not aware of. There is a great plastic patch in the Pacific, and you will be surprised to know size. It's 1.6 million square kilometers. 16 lakh kilometers of plastic is there in Pacific. So
It's not the only one. It's not the only
yeah,
one. It's just one.
yeah, and even Asia is the contributor for that. So you have woven such intricacies in the story. So how all this means, how the story materialized, means what was the starting point of this thing, means how were you aware of these facts and then you felt you should write, or you were thinking of writing about the conflict inside the minds of two young people, and then this these are supporting things, means what was your writing process of this?
The writing process was, I really started with the two youngsters, which had this conflict, and I myself felt this anger of Sadre, so I could write it down. But one day I woke up with the dialogue, with one piece of dialogue between the two whales. And I thought, first I thought that's a story apart. And then I thought, no, it's not. And I had to write the publishing house, the publisher, and told her, look, story is a completely different one. And she said, tell me more about it. And I told her, yeah, now it's not only the conflict between the two boys, it's also two whales. And in the end, the story comes together. And she was, and I couldn't tell her yet how the story would come together, but I like challenges, so I took it. And then I began to research, as I said, and I began to research also how do whales live and what challenges do they face. How is their environment? How polluted is it? How are they wandering through the sea? And what do they see when they are wandering? And then I knew about these plastic patches before, because of the Gulf Stream and all these streams which swirl the plastic together. But I wanted to know some more about it, and it is meters thick and huge. I think it didn't got less big, or it didn't get smaller. Absolutely not.
Okay, I'll come to Dr. Sunanda. Comparing such books to our Marathi literature, do you think books for adolescents are handling current issues like this? Means, are they adequate, or they are still delving in ideas in 80s and 90s of good old Marathi world. Means are today's kids relate to today's Marathi books? So that is my question.
Yes, now when the children are going more in the English medium schools and the adolescents are, I don't know how many of them would read those the literature for youth in Marathi. And usually, I remember that the Marathi stories for youth or for teenagers, they used to be adventure stories or uh, about the life of the great people who would inspire them in their lives. And such things were there. I don't know whether they are still there, but some publications like Pratham, they are trying, and they are also getting translated good literature from other Indian languages into Marathi. So, but I don't know whether there are any books with such addressing to such social issues or socio-political issues and environmental issues. I think there could be some books about environmental issues, but
So
yes, so I wanted to translate. That is why I wanted to translate this particular book, which was a unique combination where these issues are actually combined in a very innovative way. So, and she says that the pot whales, they are actually extincted species, but they come back. And how? That is very interesting. How she
yes.
actually, her fantasy and everything happened. Yeah.
That's where I was coming. I'm coming towards conclusion. So this book is not only about anger, or it's not only about the uh, heated exchanges between two people or a worsening situation. It is also about the solutions. So what will you tell about the solution mentioned in the book, or as a general this thing for the people, means how we can find a solution to these current problems?
Well, I I would be very modest if I had a solution for the pollution in all the world and for all the social issues. But I just suggest let's talk to each other. I think we in Europe have to be more modest towards also other cultures and other economies, and we have to work together to this worldwide challenge of climate change or climate crisis. I mean, it's not just a change that sounds so neutral in its word. It's a crisis. This world is going to change so much that we can't live on it anymore. And this causes huge social problems for every one of us. And I see the only solution I do see in a certain modesty, also of the super rich. Excuse me, super rich around the world are the greatest, biggest polluter here. And we're just talking always about the middle class who should be more modest and whatever. It is a political decision to do that. And it is in us to take some responsibility, every one of us. But first of all, really, politics must get there and say, okay, we